trader and educator at Traders Agency, is with us. I know you have some stock picks for us. People love those. I want to hear about your big picture, some of your thoughts on what's happening with this market, where it's headed.
Sure. Nicole, thanks for having me on. You know, I don't know how anybody can be bearish on this market. I mean, when you look at the big picture, and everybody wants to fight over every 5-minute bar, which I think is silly. You know, what you want in a healthy market is stocks going up on bad news. And that's your sign the market is healthy. If you go back to the 2022 bear market, you can pinpoint the low literally to the day, to the worst inflation report, the worst CPI report we've seen in decades. And if you look at that, if you probably remember, gaps down and then rallied like crazy that day. That was the dead low. So that is a characteristic of strong markets. Look what we've seen just in the last week, all right? Disappointing GDP growth. We've got these rate cuts that Powell's dangling in front of us and then pulling back. Nope, you don't get those. And the market disappointed. This morning we get a PPI number that comes in higher than expected, showing inflation is still, you know, beyond their target. And the S&P is trading within 0.5% of all-time highs. I mean, I don't know how anybody could be bearish in this market we're in right now.
Right, understood. So with that, I would love to hear some of the names that jump out at you. I do know we're going to talk about some of the meme stocks too. That's a whole nother story. But are there names that seem to provide value for investors in your mind? And if so, which ones?
Yeah, I wanted to bring you some stocks that you're probably not going to hear of anywhere else, because we've got millions of people fighting over the same 20 names, your Amazons, your Netflix, your Googles, right? But where we've seen the most value is these small cap stocks. And what we look to is a little bit different than most people. We actually look to insider buying. So a lot of people aren't familiar with this, but when CEOs and CFOs and board members, these directors, folks inside the company with access to good information, when they're buying their own stock with their own money in their own account, we can track this stuff. And what we look for is signs of opportunistic buying. Right? I'm not saying they're cheating. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here. But the premise is basically this. If you're buying stocks where the people who run them are spending large amounts of money to invest in this stock for the first time in years, usually worst case is it's not that bad. So a couple I'll throw at you. One is Sabre, ticker SABR, a little small cap package software company. So we've seen 4 big insider buys in the stock in just the last week, and not just anybody. We're talking the chief financial officer, the CEO, the executive vice president, chief legal officer. 4 buys in a month. Biggest cluster of insider activity this company's seen in its existence. Now, the chart, as you saw, is not pretty. We're talking about a stock that was $25 a few years ago. Now it's $3. But this rally, this news, is already pushing stock. We're up 18% of the last 10 days. This is one of those names that obviously more speculative, but these are the kind of names that can double, triple, quadruple if, in fact, the buying we saw is opportunistic.
Right, understood. So you mentioned some of these names and the insider moves, right? You have Sabre, Vestas, and Trace Medical Concepts. Final thoughts on that, because then I wanted to get into this meme craze too.
Yeah, well, Treece looks really interesting. The ticker's TMCI, and it's these small little medical tech companies, biotechs, pharmaceuticals. We've seen some of our biggest wins. I mean, we bought Perspective Therapeutics, CADX is the ticker, back in January at 40 cents a share, seeing the same thing. And that thing's up 300+% in the last 4 months. You got a stock like TMCI. This is a setup we see all the time. Stock goes from $11, bad earnings, gets clobbered, falls down to $4 after a bad earnings report. And look, if the number, I get they're not that great, but the people inside, the CEO, the CFO, they know better than us what the outlook looks like. And as soon as that stock dropped, they start buying. We saw 2 board members along with the CEO all buying yesterday. $1.5 million, 500,000, big chunks of stock, 3.7 million of their personal money in this stock just in the last 3 days. So to me, it's a huge sign of value. I think it's a great buy down here, a stock off most people's radars that could see a lot of upside, and we're getting confirmation from those who know best.
Right. I mean, what are you thinking about some of these names that are on the move, such as GameStop? I mean, you hear, Roaring Kidding come out yesterday.
Yeah.
The traders here were, sort of, it was like this, oh my goodness moment, because we hadn't heard from Roaring Kitty for a few years now, but just this week, GameStop's up over 200%, AMC's up 91%, Coast Speakers 94%, BlackBerry, and others. I think you're also watching some of the other names you had on your list too, I believe, as well, right? You were watching Beyond Meat, and tell me about some of the other names too.
Well, the D-Gens are back, Nicole. They're back in their mom's basement slinging stocks. And, if you'd have told me 10 years ago that a guy named Roaring Kitty could create more market cap value in 24 hours than the head of the Fed, I'd have thought you're crazy. But that's the market we're in again. These guys have been quiet for a while. As you said, Keith Gill, Roaring Kitty, starts posting on X on Sunday, but it gets excited. GameStop rallies. It up again today. I think the move in GameStop's probably over. You're talking about, what has it been, a 5 or 10x move since Friday? It's near the highs, the 2021 peak craziness. I don't think it's there, but I do think they are targeting these stocks, and their formula is pretty simple. These guys are not dumb. They're creating or trying to exploit these short squeezes. So stocks that have a high short interest, a lot of folks betting against them, and they're smart enough to focus on the smaller cap names that they can actually move. Like your last guest said, you're not going to move Roblox, right? But you can move these sub-billion-dollar companies. So Novavax is one right now. NVAX, it's starting to go. There's a website out there. It's free. If you go to highshortinterest.com, it'll show you the stocks with the highest short interest. And right now I'm looking at it. You got B. Riley, RILY, Beyond Meat, Immunity Bio. So you focus on these that have small floats, lower market caps. That's the ones they're targeting. And so I would focus there. You could see more room in AMC, Beyond Meat, Riley. Now, these things are volatile, right? They're getting moved around by degenerates. They're up 50% overnight. I mean, it's wild. So you want to be cautious with these. You want to trade it like a opening range, 5 or 15-minute breakout. You put 5-minute bars, it breaks the high of the first 15, you buy it, stop at the low of the day, because you're just trying to catch short-term momentum in these. But I think this is just a start. I don't think it's going to be GameStop. I think it's going to be different names. But be prepared. We're going to see more craziness, I think, over the next few months into the summer.
Yeah. Understood. I mean, just final thoughts. I mean, would you make any big moves when you look at all these names? Is there one you would short or one you would buy?
Oh, I wouldn't short any of these, not against those guys. I mean, if GameStop, if you didn't learn that lesson back in 2021, I guess you deserve to lose all your money. But no, I mean, I think these short squeezes can be powerful. Again, they're short-term moves. I'd look at something like Novavax, look at something like AMC. If it can start putting in a resistance level and break. I mean, longer term, I like TMCI. I like Sabre. I think these are lower cost stocks that are worth 15, 20% risk, because again, we've been doing it for 7 years. Our track shows when you get them right, they're 50, 100, 200, 300% runs. And this insider buying after a big dip is one of the best predicators of when it's time to buy, because you're talking about MBA caliber folks, top executives running these companies who know it inside and out. There's nobody on Wall Street that has a better idea of what that stock is worth than them. So when they're buying their own money, their own account, especially in large chunks for the first time in a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's our bread and butter setup. So TMCI, Sabre, when it comes to the meme stocks, look, buckle up, right? It's wild. Don't short them. Don't get in front of this nonsense. But yeah, I would trade these opening range breakouts and try to get some rallies. But if you hold them overnight, you got to be prepared for what's coming.
No, and it sounds like, when you look at something like TMCI, you know exactly what you're getting versus what could be the wild card of these meme stocks. No, I fully understand. Thank you so much, Ross. It's nice to chat with you today.
Yeah,
Ross Gibbons,
for sure.
Traders Agency. Thank you.